Let's do this. Okay. If you didn't know, you're all here for bacon. Next slide. And this is our professional services subgroup. We want to thank our sponsors, Prime Point, Marsh McClellan, Startup Business Alliance, Alta, Elias Group, B Marketing, Focal Point, Harris Gubin, Innovo, Penn State, Great Valley, PMA, and Truist. And I'd like to take a minute, Mark, since you are on the call, please give us a 30-second on Innovo.
30-second on Innovo. Well, good morning to everybody. Innovo helps companies break sales records. How's that? So we work typically with the owners of the company where they're motivated to increase their sales, or the owners are just tired of trying to manage their sales teams, and we help them achieve those goals. That's my spiel.
That's great. All right, next slide. Okay, so our upcoming event, this is a big one, a signature event. It's being held next Wednesday, the 26th, in New Jersey, Pensacola, New Jersey. It's Beata, and there is a virtual option available as well. And Mark Beata, spelled differently than the name of his company, Beata, one of the region's powerhouse home care companies that has become an international success, is the featured speaker. And it is a home health care, and if people haven't heard it, it is huge, and he's got a great story to tell. So please do attend the upcoming events for this group. As you know, Nella Bloom, thank you very much, is with us, did part 1 on legal aspects with a small business. This is the the marketing and business development. And the part 3 will be on May 18th, and that's the growth stage. What, how, and when? How do you know it? What do you do about it? And how do you implement it? And then part 4 is the exit strategy with Fred Kaplan, which is you're kind of near the end. What are you going to do? Do you sell the business? If it's a professional services business, it's just you. So how do you make sure that you can get the value that you want? If that is your exit strategy may be something totally different. So Fred will be talking to us about that, and that is on June 15th. All right. So we're going to talk about marketing and business development. We have 2 awesome guest speakers. We've got Lisa Peskin and Beth Brodovsky. Beth, I'm sorry. How do you pronounce it?
Brodovsky. Don't worry, it took my kids years to do it.
Okay. So you can read their bios there. Sorry, it's so small. But before we get started into the discussion, and that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a lively discussion. The people on this call, you're not shy. We want you to talk. First thing we're going to do, though, is to introduce yourselves so that Beth and Lisa have an idea of what it is that you do, what your company is, and they're going to ask pointed questions. So this is going to be a very interactive. We're not even going to have a breakout room, guys. We're going to be talking, and I have a feeling we're going to have to stop when the time is up, because you all will ask questions, we'll talk about it. So let's go around the room, and we're going to have Taylor. You're first.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Taylor Fernley, CEO of Pinnacle Peer Advisory Council. We work with business owners in the tri-state area who during the pandemic did not devote the time or attention to business development. I step in as a referral partner, sit down with them, find out who they're trying to get in front of, go out with my network, identify pre-qualified leads, and bring them to the table. And fun, very busy, as you can imagine. People are looking to get back in the saddle and continue to grow their business, and I step in and am a catalyst to make that happen.
Great. One other thing, I'd like you to give me your biggest frustration in either sales and marketing or in business development, and what are you hoping to get out of today? Taylor, could you answer those questions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking to grow in a calculated fashion, not to commit. Right now, it's very difficult because I'm having to say no to a lot of people, and I'm not very good at that. So I'm trying to work in that whole area. What I'm hoping to learn from today is kind of best in class ideas, what others have done, what they've the trials and tribulations of their efforts, and not only the successes and the ideas, but perhaps even some of the war stories that have come up as a result of moving forward with one initiative or two.
Thank you. And Barbara.
Hi, all. Barbara Taylor with Jambar and Associates, and basically look at how to accelerate the performance of people and organizations. And I do that through coaching and leadership development and performance management. So I laugh because both Lisa and Beth have known me and worked with me.
Ever.
So in sales, I'm really good at selling for somebody else. I'm not particularly good at selling for me. Right. So that's one thing. And getting myself out there. Marketing, it's kind of like there is so much one can do. There's so much one can do. How do you figure out what is going to be the most effective? If you can't do everything, how do you kind of figure out what is going to be a little niche for you or a way for you to increase awareness about you and your business? So I guess that's my frustration, and that's what I'm hoping to learn for both of them.
Awesome. Thank you. Seth.
Find the mute button there. I'm Seth Goldstein from Goldstein Media. We do digital marketing, internet marketing is digital marketing, but I'm going with that. Website design, SEO, pay-per-click, that kind of stuff. I really just saw Beth and Lisa are going to talk. I'm like, I should go to this. Number one, Lisa's awesome. I haven't seen Beth in forever. I'm like, I got to see Beth. Lisa, you're fantastic. I adore you. I saw you 2 weeks ago. I have not seen Beth
Too long.
in too long. I'm like, and you both know your SHIT. So I'm like, I could pick up a few, even though I'm in the industry. I could pick up a few tactics. Biggest frustration is getting clients to realize that they need help. Like they're like, the site needs help, and I can help. So that's my biggest frustration.
Okay. Stan.
Yeah, hi, Stan Tilson, Stan Tilson Consulting. I'm pretty lucky. I've had an interesting corporate career, worked at places like Hewlett Packard, have a Stanford master's in engineering, but now I've formed this consulting practice to discover gaps in product, process, and technology, and then fix them in companies that have significant product development activities or similar activities. What I'm hoping to get out of this is some perspective on the marketing activities. I've just formed my practice, so it's a bit new to me, this aspect. And my biggest frustration is, since I have just formed my practice, is getting my message in front of the right people. And that's, we've got to all share that as a concern, I'm sure. Thank you.
That's a good one. Thank you. Nella.
Hello, everyone. Nella Bloom. I'm the managing member of Bloom & Bloom. We're a law firm based in Philly, but I also practice not only in Pennsylvania, but also New Jersey and Delaware. And we do a lot of outside general counsel work and a lot of smaller scale M&A work, among other things. And the reason I'm here today is because at this point in my practice, I've been on my own, or I suppose nominally with my father, who's mostly retired, for about 9 years now. But it's feast or famine, as I'm sure it is for so many of us. So I kind of know how my pipeline works, but I don't really have that concrete sense of it. So I'm trying to figure out how to best use my efforts today so that in 6 months I will have work.
Good. Ed.
So I have a one-person LLC, The Blind Guide, focused on helping people thrive with vision loss. And within that, I also do some mentoring of people who are blind, leading them to their first job. So it's a lot of heartfelt work, not a lot of revenue, but I also work as a referral partner with 2 veteran-owned businesses. One that helps employers collect the work opportunity tax credits, a great solution. And the other who connects employers to veterans, military spouses, and people with disabilities. Basically, employers who believe in the business value of hiring from that cognitive diversity pool. In terms of why frustrations, the solutions are somewhat disruptive out of the veteran-owned businesses. And I've brought several large companies to them, but we can't seem to keep them because they're unwilling to change their practices and then say, well, it didn't work. We can monitor their use. We can see that they didn't use it. So it didn't work because they didn't use it. So maybe that echoes Stan's comment, finding the right people. I think we're finding the right job titles. We're not necessarily with the right people. In terms of what I wanted to get out today, I'm just reemerging with Beacon. So I'm here more than anything because I want to reconnect with those I knew and learn new faces.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you being here. And again, this is virtual. It allows you to do that. So I think it's wonderful. Mark.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I already gave my little talk, but what I want to get out of this is, and Ed just mentioned, it's always good to see folks. And Amy, you always have good stuff. So when you have something on, I like to check it out. Yeah, and I'm always open to new ideas or challenge my own ideas. So bring it on, I want to learn.
Great. And thank you.
Sure.
Georgianne.
Good morning. I have my own business, Star Business Alliance, and I work with small businesses under 20 million, usually going through a leadership change, which would be many cases, a merger of a mature company with a smaller company to replace eventually make a change in the CEO leadership. And I take it from the strategic to the actual putting together the plan to the integration. Most of my clients all my clients, I think, are pretty much through referral, but I have taken lots of marketing classes, but as Barbara said, I can self-help anybody else. I'm great at promoting Beacon, but when it comes to me, I'm not necessarily the best person. So, and I bet Lisa and Beth, and I don't know them real well, but I love everything I've heard. So I was excited to see them leading this discussion.
Awesome. Thank you. Guy.
Good morning. I'm Guy Sandlish, Vision Financial Strategist. I'm here primarily to better navigate the waters of the changing small business world. I do a lot of consulting with the Rutgers Small Business Development Center, and in conjunction with our business, which does outsourced accounting and financial modeling and analytics, which is our primary focus for the restaurant and retail service industries. We're looking to figure out and reinvent and modify our path to change, because the world in the small businesses is changing dramatically. And technology is out there selling what they claim to be the absolute final solution to your problems when it's only a tool to solve a problem. But the problem is it's very difficult waters to navigate, because people hear the word solution and they feel that that's where I make my investment. They make the investment, it doesn't work, then they have to come back and redo this, but they've spent the money. It's a cycle that spins out of control very quickly. So we're looking to figure out how to get in front of this, or in tandem with these technology companies, so that they can sell to companies and have successful outcomes as opposed to frustrated clients with outcomes.
Thank you.
No.
And number 609. Take yourself on mute and introduce yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. This is Orlando Rivera. Good morning, everyone. It was nice to hear Georgine and Nella and some other friends here on the call. I'm the founder of Aspira Business Brokers and Advisors. And what we do is we help small business owners sell their business. It's basically micro M&A. The reason I'm on the call was one to for bigger issue for me is similar to Nella is in our line of work. It's inconsistent, right? We have two different challenges. One is we have clients that are not repeat clients. You know, they sell a business, they're not quite coming back again, and might be quite some times there's no repeat business. And there's no way to really predict or create consistent cash flow with clientele. Not only do we not know when the next client will come in, which is 100% referral, we don't know when we might close those. So there's several layers of challenges. That's a bigger issue, I think, probably than the call, but I'm sure I'll get something to help me with that as well.
Okay, that's great. All right, Bernie. Give a introduction and why you're here.
Hi, Bernie Orgelmeister. I'm the CEO of Skyview Tech, IT and Security Solutions. We targeted SMBs, trying to help them with their IT infrastructure and cybersecurity. Our biggest challenge is, similar to Stan, is getting in front of the right people that understand that they need cybersecurity and getting in front of the right people. Normally when we talk to people in networking events, they're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And like, well, why don't you have all those tools? Oh, well, I don't know. So it's getting the right people to that value and understand that their business can close down if they suffer cyber attack tomorrow, right? I mean, 60% of the small business don't come back. So that's our challenge.
Okay, Zoe.
Hi, everyone. I think you all know me. So I'll just share, I guess, a little bit about kind of the changes that Beacon's been going through, which some of you may or may not know if you're new. I think we've been trying to adapt to a different world, like a lot of groups. I mean, Taylor comes from the association management world as well. It's not just Beacon, it's every membership group, every association, anyone who's ever done events of any kind. It's just a different world. So, and I think actually Guy and I were talking about that last night. We had the Women's Network dine around. You know, people's habits have changed. They're not necessarily wanting to drive more than 30 minutes from their house. They have less time that they want to spend, you know, physically face to face. And then we have other people who they don't like doing these Zoom meetings. They want to see people only face to face. And we kind of have an even split in the membership. So it's like really hard to engage both halves. So anyway, so that's kind of the struggle we've been going through, and just try to, you know, adapt our messaging and adapt what we're trying to do to fit the very changed needs of our members and potential members. So love to hear more about it.
And Amy Anderson, Price Turner CFOs. We are a virtual accounting department for small and medium-sized businesses, and anywhere from the simple bookkeeping up to the CFO services doing the strategy for the CEO. All right. So any questions? All right. Put yourselves on mute, especially if there's background noise. However, we do want you to be interactive. You don't need to use the chat. You can take yourself off mute and ask the questions. All right. If it's something though you want to think about it, or you want to put it out there, so when there's a simple break in the conversation, put it on the chat. That way we will get back to it and come back to you. But we're in a small group, and this is fabulous because we're going to be very interactive. And as I said before, this is not a shy group. So we're going to get started. All right. So Beth, I'm going to start with you. With the marketing, you know, what is the first thing that a business owner needs to do?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, everybody here is actually an experienced business owner. And one of my favorite definition of marketing, because people are like marketing, sales, it usually gets all lumped together. Marketing sets up the environment so that a sale can happen. And so that's, I think sometimes people think of marketing is execution of all these things, which is true, but like the sale is that part where like the conversion happens. But what are all the things that have to be done in order to get to that point where that sale happens? And we often think that the golden cup that we all win is reaching that point where all of our business comes in from referral. And that's great if it's coming in consistently, and if the referrals that are coming in are showing up as exactly the thing that you want. But a lot of times what I see is businesses that get all of their business from referral, your business ends up becoming what other people are asking you to do, and not necessarily allowing you to cultivate the kind of business that you want to do. Marketing allows you to communicate and like basically pull in and attract what you want rather than what other people tell your business, say that your business is. My belief is that the very first step of marketing is understanding what you need as a business to thrive. And so we often take people through an exercise to just pause for a moment and say, what are the desirable actions that you need people to be taking? So at the other end, at that sales end, and ultimately, what are the outcomes that you want out of your marketing, out of your business? And it's so easy that there's so many things. And when we're talking about marketing, a lot of times what we'll hear is things like, well, we want to have like lots of activity on our social media feed. And the answer to that is usually to what end? So that's a journey metric. That's an interim step. That's great. That's an indicator of activity and interest and participation, but go deeper than that. What are the actual outcomes? What do you need as a business to thrive? And really making a list, like putting it all out there, making a list of all of those things to thrive. And then when you look at what you need to thrive, take a moment to think about at the moment in your audience. If you think about that, like if you could pick one thing off that list, one thing, and 10x it or 100x it, what would that thing be? Like pick that thing. And this isn't like what you're going to do operationally in your organization. It's a thought exercise to help you focus in and rebuild from the ground up. So if you think about that thing, now think about who are the people in your organization that are doing that now. So in doing this exercise of looking through what's the most important thing that people need to be doing in your organization or your business, and who are the people that are doing it now, it allows you to identify the people that we call your lovers. Those people in the center of your circle. A lot of times when we talk about marketing, people think about segments or like, I've got this bucket and that bucket and that bucket. But what happens when you think about your marketing in terms of buckets is that you spend all of your time filling this bucket 30% up and this bucket 40% up and this bucket 60% up, and you run around filling in buckets. And by the time you get to that last bucket, the first one's leaking. And nothing ever really hits 100% because you're trying to be everywhere, and you end up being an inch deep and a mile wide, as opposed to an inch wide and a mile deep. Even if you're an established business, you can still be an inch wide and a mile deep. And so getting that clarity, the very first thing to do is get clarity on what do you need to thrive and who are the people that they're helping you do that today. And the more you can understand, and like not just like know them as an audience label or as a segment. Oh, we serve lawyers, we serve business owners. But what does that mean? Like, who are these people and what do they care about? Because what happens a lot is that we try and write key messages or figure out where we should be communicating with them, or decide that we're going to do video because everybody says we have to do video. And you start taking marketing actions at the outside edge. You're over here and you haven't really thought about who are these people and what do we need? What do they need to do? Because really that's where, what we would call your brand lives. And for me, the definition of branding is it's the bridge that gets you from the mission, why you exist as an organization, over to that marketing. It's the thing that connects you between those people. And if you don't understand what people want, it's impossible to serve them. It's like, remember in middle school when you had to write the persuasive argument? Like, how do you persuade somebody to do something when you don't know, like, what are their motivators and what they care about? So I would say the very first thing to do before you even think about tactics and stuff is understand what you need to thrive and figure out what can I learn from the people that we're already serving that will help me deepen my connection with them and attract more people just like them?
Thank you. We're going to shift over to Lisa. Tell us a little bit about business. Well, no. Tell us something about business development that we all need to know.
So I'm a numbers girl.
Love you already, girl.
I've been in sales for 35 years. And when it comes down to it, no matter what your business is, this is a numbers game. And so we have to start with what Beth said, where we want to land, right? What do we want to make? And what do we need to sell in order to make that much? And then we're going to look at our business and we're going to say so much of our business could be repeat business. Some of you don't have repeat business. The M&A, that's going to be difficult, but we have so much repeat business. Then we've got an opportunity to penetrate our existing customers, upsell and cross-sell, different departments, divisions, sell more products, sell more services. And then we've got our net new business that we need to sell in order to make our numbers. So now it's just an equation. So we take how much we need in net new business. We figure out singles, doubles, triples, home runs, and grand slams, how many of each of those we need to sell because they're not going to all be equal. Then we figure out how much we need to sell. We apply our close ratio, which is one of the key numbers that everybody here must understand, proposals to sales, because then we know how many proposals or quotes we need to have out there, and then so many appointments to get that number of proposals. And then all the Beth does and that you might do, getting referrals, asking for referrals, marketing efforts, speaking engagements, whatever it is that's the source of the business coming in, you have to work it back to how much of each of that you need to do. So another key thing that I would have everybody do here is figure out where your business came from last year and constantly monitor where that business came from, because then you got to figure out and revert back to what are the smartest activities. So in a law firm, you're doing the fulfillment. You only have a portion of your time to focus on this business development. So we got to figure out what the game plan is. And I don't know about you guys, but aside from Rich Kotite, how many football coaches come into the game without a game plan? So the number one thing I'd have everybody do is make sure you got a game plan regarding your particular efforts. What's the smartest thing for you to do? What associations should you belong to? How many centers of influences do you need to have? And what marketing efforts do you need to do, like Beth said, in order to support your sales?
Thank you. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's what we want. Yeah.
And
exactly.
not to self-plug, but I just want to tell you that all this is in here. And for anyone here, I'm happy to get you a copy. All right. So it's just all the stuff I ever learned in sales, but it's all laid out and it's just easy to follow a methodical approach.
Let me just reinforce that too for you, Lisa. You may recall we had coffee. Oh, I don't know. Was that a year ago?
Forget Taylor. Come on.
But we talked about that toolkit of yours. And it really is fabulous. Very easy to use. I look at those things. First of all, I say, I'm not going to be able, that's too much information. It's a very simplistic process that Lisa has that really could serve all of us well. So just a shameless plug.
Thank you, Taylor.
Good. So what I'm hearing from both of you is, and I'll put a plug to myself too, is you've got to have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
When for my companies, it's a financial plan. Beth, in yours, it's a marketing plan. And Lisa, a business development actual plan. It's instead of throwing everything at the wall or the spaghetti at the wall, it is, let's see what it does. And I also like that both of you use the fact of what did we do this past year?
Mm-hmm.
What worked and what didn't work. And to Beth, to your point, was that because we were an inch and a mile wide and we were doing everything on social media and we're doing all these speaker engagement and everything else, but we never followed up. So give me the next piece of information that you want to share about marketing, Beth.
Okay, yeah, and it's funny because I think somebody had said earlier about that you could see that they left because but they didn't actually do any of the work. And it's so that happens so often. Marketing doesn't work. This didn't work. I believe that there's like a balance between there needs to be space for experimentation. You need to try different things and see what's out there. Things are changing constantly in marketing, but the definition of an experiment is that it has a control. If it's a design, an experiment is a designed thing that has a hypothesis, has things that you're testing, and has an outcome that you're looking to see. Anything other than that is a seizure, right? Like it's just, you're having a seizure of marketing. You're doing a thing for the sake of doing a thing. And we lovingly call that hope marketing, right? You cannot run a business hoping that you get like whatever, some tweet from Michelle Obama, and that's going to like change your business. But so many organizations go out there with like hope marketing. I'm going to spend, $10,000 and go to this trade show. It's going to be amazing, but there's no plan for like, did you pick the right trade show? Are your people, is the audience that you're looking for at that trade show? Out of all the things that you've done in the past, like what Lisa was saying, have trade shows been the thing that have brought you business? And it's this leaping from tree to tree that gets everywhere. And a lot of times in marketing, the language, and it's like this explosion of stuff. And so I like to say that there's really, just sort of 3 areas you need to focus on in marketing, and that you don't have to make it super, super complicated. And if you get these 3 areas covered, then you'll be in good shape. So if you think about your audience and what you're trying to do to serve that audience, and you just ask yourself 3 questions. What do you want them to know? What do they need to feel in order to make a decision? And then what is it you want them to do? If you can answer those things, what do you want people to know? That's the top of the funnel, bringing them in. What do you want them to feel? That's that momentum, that emotional part. And then what do you want them to do? Because people think that we can put all of our marketing into do. Come to this event, buy our stuff. So like a lot of marketing energy goes into things that are really more leaning towards more that sale, the conversion point of marketing. And then the other point people put a lot of effort into is, what do we want people to know? Education, information, tell you. And I often say, if we all made decisions because of the knowledge that we have, we would all be skinny. Right? Like information, knowing how to do, like knowing things does not actually make us do the thing that we want to do, or even that somebody else wants you to do. So you've got to get people to internalize that. So that middle channel of what do you want people to feel? What do they need to feel? And what strategies and tactics can you use to move people from being aware to care to taking action? Because it is our thoughts don't make us do things. Our feelings are what make us do things. Our feelings lead, like our thoughts create those actions. So we've got to just think about those things. So really, like we often do, we call it a 1-page communication strategy. And we list out, what's the audience? What are our strategic operational goals? And then those 3 things. And then if you just build out, what strategies and tactics that and I would say pick up to 3 for each of those buckets. And that's enough. So a lot of times we end up writing a marketing plan. I see this all the marketing plans that are 30 pages long, and we're going to do all this stuff. And then you get overwhelmed. And then even when you have those, so if you have those 3 things, what do you want people to know? What do you want people to feel? What do you want people to do? And in there you have 3 things in each, you're still going to end up with 9 things to do. I would still say then look at that list and prioritize the top 3. What are the top 3 that are going to create the biggest impact first? And then what's the first one that you want to tackle? And just take them sequentially. We all want to do the all things, all everywhere marketing. And it's a really good way to bleed out, and get yourself exhausted. Get one bucket full to 100% and paying you back so that you're seeing a return on it, so that you can then free up some time to do the next thing.
That's so many people, business owners out there today have been through all kinds of iterations of marketing efforts. And is there anything that you can share with us here now to get people, these business owners, to be less risk averse? That they just are fearful, that they hear marketing and they all have different interpretations of that. But what things how can we help you? Give us a couple of hooks or something that we can get them to know how important marketing is, and maybe provided a lead or two for you?
So it's interesting you say like less risk averse. I am like the most risk averse person on the face of it. I always joke that I have my dad's an entrepreneur and he's sitting on this shoulder saying, say yes and figure it out later. And my mom's a librarian and she sits on this shoulder and says, debt is a 4-letter word.
Yeah, right.
You know, so like I've lived my life in between these two extremes, right? And so for me, it's about, it's not, I don't believe it's as much about getting people to be less risk averse, but instead getting them to understand that while there's an, I mean, of course, there's an art to marketing. It's easy to look at the external, the surface area of marketing, but to know that underneath it, like Lisa said, if you can create a methodology and if you can create even your experiments in a way that says, how long is this going to run? What are we willing to invest? What are we hoping to get out of it? And what's the duration of that experiment that if we don't see it, we're going to cut it off and move on? You know, how do we, getting people to understand what is a reasonable way to try things, how many things can we actually handle trying at once? And the key thing, number one key thing, what can you be consistent with? Because, you know, like it's so easy to like, oh, I just, you know, put $25,000 into a video and it didn't work. Well, you know, if you'd taken that $25,000 and maybe invested it in an intern that could write blogs for you, or like, are there better ways to invest that money?
Sure.
So I think it's a key thing of thinking about like, okay, if this is the amount of money we want to spend, but a lot of times people don't think about that at all either. They don't want to spend any money. And that's possible. You can do things without spending money, but how, if you think about, are we doing anything in those areas? If you look at what do you want, are you doing things to make people aware that you exist? Are you, and is that bringing in the right people? If you end up getting referrals that are not the right people for you, then what you're doing isn't working. If you're not, you know, getting repeat and retaining clients, if the things that you're doing aren't working, is it riskier to continue doing what you're doing? Or is it riskier to try something new? All my friends that, you know, say, I don't know how you can be a self-employed. It's so risky. And I'll go, geez, I don't know how you can go in every day and not know if someone's going to walk into your office and fire you and lay you off. Like, to me, that seems really risky. So it's all relative, right? So like, how can we make people feel that the risk of continuing doing what they're doing or doing nothing is actually going to have a worse impact on their business?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in. You made the comment about people, how many more things can they do? I was the one that had brought up the comment about people not testing what we were using.
Oh, right.
We were reaching the right people, but what was happening is, and it was on the recruiting side, they already had 10 standard processes they were trying to do. They didn't have enough time to do those. And then we handed them a disruptive process. So we were reaching the right job title, not the right person. And I've tried to switch my pitch now and say, if you're number one, if you believe that this is valuable or you need this, then I need to either uncover a rising star that you're willing to just set aside for a month and do nothing but use our system, or somebody who's deeply experienced, but the same thing. But if it becomes the 11th thing on that plate filled with 10 items, they aren't going to try it. It has nothing to do with the quality of it. Just, it's one more thing and I can't do it. It's easier to say it doesn't work.
Yeah. Right. And so in that case, Lisa would probably say the same thing, that it's not just about like, you've got to find somebody that's that care piece, that's that feel piece in the middle of like, is what they're doing that's not working bad enough that they're looking to try something different? Like, what are like underneath the, hey, this software might be cool or this thing might be cool, it's, do they have the feelings and have they and then are they aware of them? Because lots of times people have feelings that they ignore because they're just head down trying to get stuff done. And then, but it's also not enough to just really feel the pain. They also have to have the capacity. We've seen that because we do big, giant research-driven branding strategy projects, and they're amazing and the outcome of them is incredible, but it is not for the faint of heart. You know, so I have learned in my sales process to say, hey, you say you want this, what does that word mean to you? So, I mean, the mistake that I used to make was I would try and sell a ginormous 1.5 year long branding project to everybody that walked into me and said, hey, we need branding. And now I say, so tell me, When you say branding, what does that mean to you? What are you looking to achieve? What are you looking to do? And what's your time frame? Because if they say, oh, we need to like have a new website in 2 months or 3 months, which is completely unrealistic, right, Seth? You know, if we need to have our logo, if we've got a trade show and we have an anniversary, I'm just like, well, that tells me a lot about what they're tolerant, like what they're going to even consider. And like, we've done little things, like we have a 1-pager that says, well, what do we mean when we say this? And we kind of we outline, here's what a deep project looks like. Here's what a middle, here's what these different things look like. And so that's in our education period. Oh, well, when you say branding, it could mean this, it could mean this, it could mean this. All of these projects are okay, but you don't want to do the wrong project for you, because that makes everyone miserable.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a question that kind of fits for both of you, and you actually use this term. So when you said, you know, you want to know what your prospects know, feel, and do, and I've been told, certainly in the sales process, but it sounds maybe in the marketing, that you sell to people's pain. That whole thing about pain is, okay, I certainly get that. I certainly do it. But is there anything else? Can you sell to something else besides pain? So Lisa and Beth, what are your thoughts on
Lisa,
that?
why don't you jump in?
So Barbara, you're almost a mind reader, because I was just thinking, for all of us, a lot of us are non-selling professionals, right? We have to do the business development, but it wasn't like we grew up thinking we wanted to be in sales, but by the nature of the fact that we're a business owner, we have to do sales. And Barbara, you mentioned, and I think some other folks mentioned, you're not really great at promoting yourself, right? Well, if we change the mindset of trying to sell our stuff, because nobody wants to be sold anything, to figuring out how you could help an individual or company with your product or service. And it is all about helping. And some of the time, Barbara, we are helping them because they have a pain point, right? But some of the time, it's not necessarily that. It could go in the opposite direction. So like Bernie, one of the key things you sell to is FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? And if you could quantify what it might be for a company that if they had a cybersecurity attack, and I think you said 60% of companies don't survive. So you sell to pain or FUD. But some of us, I don't necessarily help companies that are struggling all the time. It's companies that want to be better. And so it could be an up arrow or a down arrow. So I always said back in my ADP days, if we could find 3 ways to help them out, and it may be helping them with the pain, but sometimes it's helping them achieve something that they want to achieve. So the M&A person here, how do we get the best value for your business, right? It's not necessarily a pain point. So I think it is about finding those individuals and companies and being able to identify not the round peg, but the square peg. So many times we're trying to put a round peg in a square hole, and the referrals or the companies we get from our marketing efforts aren't necessarily the right fit. So not only do we need to figure out what the right title is, what the right company, what the right size of the company, but what are the characteristics of that company? So for me, it might be a company that doesn't have a sales manager, but the owner's trying to develop their salespeople directly. So to answer your question, Barbara, in a little bit of a long way, it's not always selling to pain. With those people you're helping with their transition, yes, their pain is they don't have a job, but it's all about what is their ideal job look like.
And I'm going to jump in there because you said something, and Beth said it again also, and this is why we have the 2 of you here today. Different areas, but similar messages, which is, Beth, you mentioned care.
Mm-hmm.
Why does the customer, what do you want those customers to, the potential customers, the people who are reading the marketing, who are seeing the market, what do you want them to care? And Lisa, I think what you're also saying is it's the emotions. So we're not the used car salesman, and I apologize if people have that background or whatever. we're not the used car salesman selling that car that's going to fly off the lot. We are going to sell to someone's emotion. And truthfully, my clients don't care what I do in the back end in terms of accounting. That's why they hire me. They don't want to do it. But what do I make them feel? How can I, when I deliver a product or a service, and Lisa, this is what you're saying too, it's not that selling for pain. It might be selling for, to get those sales up to 25 million, where they're at 10 million now. It's that exuberation of people are excited about the company again. It's that emotion of, what is it that the company or the people are going to feel when this service is delivered? Oh, we're in professional services subgroup here. We all sell services. So, Lisa.
And if you could quantify it, if we could quantify the results, then you put your solution in the context of what they're trying to achieve. So Bernie, for you, if one company is down because of a cybersecurity attack, it could cost them $1 million. Let's say your investment, I'm making this up, is $50,000. Well, $50,000 in the context of $100 million, that's kind of a no-brainer. Same thing with you, Beth, and same thing with a bunch of us. So one of the key things I've learned in sales is if we can quantify the results. So for you, Amy, if you don't have to worry about all this bookkeeping and the accounting, what else could you be doing with your time that is actually going to generate more money? Right?
Absolutely. The reason why I'm doing my taxes.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't have a business anymore because it'd take me all year to do my taxes.
Seth, I'm a CPA who does not do her own taxes either.
Because you're smart, you run the business.
Exactly.
You run the business. Where's your time? You know enough to be dangerous with taxes. You know enough to do your taxes. But is it better for you to work on the business and hire your employees to do the taxes for you?
Right.
It's like, do you get someone to mow your lawn or do you mow your lawn?
Yeah.
Like, what can you do X, Y, Z more if you don't have to go mow the darn lawn and spend $30? It's $30. It's a lot. It's not cheap for postage size stamp.
Yeah.
But it's still get the lawnmower out. Keep in mind, I don't even have a lawn. But if I had a lawn, it'd be getting the lawnmower out, filling up with gas, getting it to start. That's 20 minutes right there. What could I be doing better than that? Like what Bernie does. Like, I can secure my websites pretty darn well. I can keep an eye on my stuff. I'm techie and all that. But there's so much of their stuff that I'm not reading up on alone. And that's why I always tell my people is that, like with SEO, you can do SEO all day, every day yourself. But do you have time to keep up on like Google coughing in the server room and having changed? I mean, that's my joke, bad joke, but them changing an algorithm, which they do weekly now. And then figuring out, is this an algorithm change that you need to worry about now? Or just one that's not going to affect you? No, you talk to me. I went Italian all of a sudden now. You talk to me and, we help you out.
Well, and it goes back to, and I think this is a lot of how we do things, is we do tell your clients to do what they do best and outsource the rest. Because you can't wear all those hats. When you're a business person, anyway, you're wearing a lot of hats. But decide which ones you either don't want to do.
Yeah,
or
I've tried. It doesn't work. It doesn't end up well. It does not end
doing
well.
it all?
I've tried. No, I'm a web designer. I have a designer, 2 designers, and a developer that I work with constantly. Can I do the website? Yeah. Can I do it as well and as fast as them? No. So I've hired them to bring them on. Because they do their job better. I'm better schmoozing than they are. So I'm the professional schmoozer of the group. So I do the biz dev and product development, project management, not development. And I hand off the design to them because I'm going to be blown away with their design that they'll get done in a week that would take me a month to do. It'll take me a month to get to their level. It'll get there. I'm good at what I do, but like not that quickly.
And that's why, again, Lisa talking about, business development is, there are clients, we're all we own our businesses. We should be out there. Lisa has a tool set to do that. Taylor is available to do that for us. if you don't want to do it, there are many people who don't want to be out there selling. They want to, even as a CEO, they don't want to necessarily do it themselves. So they either have somebody in-house, or they hire Taylor, or they hope, Georgianne, that the referrals come to you, but can we do it better? Lisa.
So here's another thing, and then I definitely want to hear Beth's perspective. But when we look at our source of our business, raise your hand if you're good at getting unsolicited referrals. Right? We're all good at getting unsolicited referrals, right? We didn't ask for it, but we got it. But sometimes we forget to ask for referrals, and focusing on who are our really good strategic alliances. Who are the people that have already referred us good business in the past, and who are people that referred us, but maybe we didn't get the business? I call them the A's and the B's. Make sure you've got a strategy around those great centers of influences. I had a Vistage guy give me 7 pieces of business in 1 year. So one of the easiest ways to influence your business is find those key nets for yourself and make sure you're getting in front of them and asking for referrals.
And I'll jump back in. I want to add a little more to what Lisa was saying about quantifying things, because she comes from the sales side of things and I'm from the marketing side. So I would also say quantifying things is really helpful, but there's more than one way to do that. We work primarily with nonprofit organizations. And so we write a lot of, those letters that ask you for money in the end of the year, right? And so in a page, maybe 2 pages, maybe 4 pages, sometimes we have to, we have to get aware, care, and action, like no, feel, do, all, like in some materials, you're focusing on no, you're focusing on do. I've learned if you're trying to get somebody to sign up for an event, you don't want to be telling a lot of stories. You ask and get them to do the thing. Anything else is a distraction. But when it comes to one of these letters, you've got to move people through all the phases at once. And one of the things that we've learned in fundraising is that lots of zeros often overwhelm people. And so if you've taken the approach of saying, we've done this much of this and that much of that, and you've given out a lot of these numbers, and it's not inspiring, it creates the information, but it doesn't always leap across the brain to that part where we're like engaged and ready to take action. And so think about what are, in addition to saying those, the look at these big things that we've done, look at these numbers that we can achieve, look at how we can communicate that. What are the other ways that you can communicate it? Can you tell stories? Can sometimes saying the example of here's one person we helped and here's what that outcome was, taking it down to something that somebody can say, in addition to like, wow, look at all of those zeros. Wow, I can see myself. So getting that care piece, which is the hardest one, a lot of that is often getting people to imagine what life would be like for them if they had the outcome that this other person did. And there's a marketing methodology that's called problem, agitate, solve. It's a flow that works really, really well. And, a lot of people have issues with the word, pain or problem. And it's important to remember, I agree, I 100% agree. It's important to remember that we have all of the emotions. You can use any emotion that's in the emotional toolkit, you can potentially utilize in order to help humor. There's caring, there's a million different emotions that you can use in order to get people to deeply connect in to their need and see you as the solution to their need. And so the problem, agitate, solve, flow is, hey, this is something that's going on in your life, in your business, that isn't working the way that you want. It's more about getting people to recognize and become aware of something that needs to change. So if you think about it, rather than just thinking about pain, thinking about what change, like what state change, like where are people now? So that's where are you now? Let's you start there. It's the same. We do the same thing with a nonprofit fundraising letter story. Here's the situation that's going on. And then agitate, while that sounds like a very negative word, agitate really means, how can I give you some examples of how this state being how it is showing up in your life or in your work in a way that's not getting you the outcomes that you want. Oh, you have this problem. You might be feeling this, you might be seeing this might be happening. It's like a micro story. And because you have these problems and it's affecting you in all of these ways, here's a solution. Here's a way that you can come out of it. And here's how we're going to make that easy for you. So it's like literally this arc of getting people to recognize and where things are not working, internalize how it feels, and then become open to considering a change. Does that make sense?
Totally. And you know what? You just talked about something that I think is so critical for all of us, and it's storytelling. It's storytelling and having those stories in your toolbox that you could pull out. Sometimes I've got this one story. If I haven't told this story over 1,000 times because it totally exemplifies everything I'm about, right? But there's also other stories. How about your personal story? So when someone says, hey, Seth, tell me about yourself. What do you say? And what are you saying in a purposeful manner to get people to really understand what you do? I always said I was terrible in history. They made me memorize the battles, the wars, but I could never put it together. But you showed me the movie about the Revolutionary War and I get it. So storytelling in marketing is so critical, but it also for all of us. Whether when we're meeting with someone on a one-on-one basis, I mean, I'm holding a lemon, but how many of you know what I'm about with my lemons, right? You know, it's all about creating that story and not only your business brand, but your personal brand as well.
Yeah, and Lisa, I love what you just said about purpose-driven stories, because it's really like, you know, we've all, like, I have a sister that like will tell you a story and she gets stuck in like how long someone's hair was. You know, my grandmother would tell me about somebody that like offended her and she would be like, was that on Tuesday or Wednesday 40 years ago? Ugh, you know, nobody cares. So when you think about thinking about productively using stories, it still comes all the way back to like, what are your strategic goals? What are the desirable actions? And then what strategic stories will help somebody go from here to here? We often will say things like, you know how people use analogies to say, well, you understand this. And because you understand this, I'm going to use this thing to help you understand this thing you don't understand. That is like the perfect kind of core of a story. That's really what it is I'm using this other thing to help you imagine this thing that I'm trying to communicate to you. So like where just start to notice, where are you using analogies to explain what you do? How can you weave that into a story? One of my favorites is a video about cystic fibrosis, which I have to say, didn't really know what cystic fibrosis was. It's apparently a breathing disease, right? And the Cystic Fibrosis Association in the UK won this award for this video that starts out with like these people at a concert that are singing and shouting. And the whole video goes on of like that breath that you take when you look across the room and see that person, you know, the breath that you breathe in, the sigh that you breathe out when you see that person at the end of the aisle, you know, the breath that you breathe in when you have that first baby, the sigh that you breathe out when you sit down in front of the doctor's office and hear that baby is sick. And they use this concept, this dumb little construct of breathing and those and paired it with those moments that most of us have had in life, you know, meeting that person, getting married, having that baby, hearing, you know, like everyone's gotten bad news about something. We could relate to that. So it was like that they put the physical feeling and the emotional feeling together and told the story of this couple meeting and ultimately having a child that was sick. And then here's here's why you can help. It was amazing. And I mean, I didn't know anything about cystic fibrosis, and now I talk about this video all the time.
And there again, it talked to the emotions.
Exactly.
To your point.
They didn't educate me. They didn't educate me.
No.
There was no education. I mean, they did, but they didn't do it with science. They did it with feelings.
So how does one identify, because what we're talking about here is getting to that client, right? Who will, one of the many numbers, Lisa, that came through, you know, we got the marketing out there through Beth's wonderful branding strategies and the other things that you tell us to do. And then those clients come in, and then, you know, with the business development, we have to whittle down who that client is. But how do we know it's the right client? Who is our target audience? How do you identify that?
Well, the first thing I would be doing is take a look at your current clients and analyze them. What industries are they in? Beth, you do a lot in nonprofit, right? What are the key industries? What is the size of the company? What's the decision maker? What are the characteristics? I was helping a guy that sold insurance, and he figured out, oh, I mostly work with higher ed. I work with nursing homes, and I work with manufacturers. I work with middle-aged head of human resources, and typically companies with 50 employees or more in the tri-state area. The more specific we could get, the better, right? That's a key thing. But then it's about our messaging also. So even with your 30-second commercial, some of you are missing a key component, actually two key components. So a 30-second isn't about what you do, it's about who you help. So the 30 seconds should really be, I help companies like Acme Box and Feasers make sure that they're doing everything they can to fill the pipeline with good qualified opportunities on a consistent basis, increase their average ratio, close ratio and average sale, and ultimately really drive revenues. So make sure within your 30-second that you're name dropping some other key companies that you're working with already and helping, and then how you're helping them. And then one other thing I'll say, and then I'll turn it over to Beth, is as long as you've got a legitimate reason to reach out to somebody, you don't have to cold call at all. So we don't have to cold call, but if we see somebody that we feel we have a legitimate reason to reach out to them, we saw something in the news and we have an idea that might be helpful, or we work with a lot of other companies in that industry, it makes it really easy to, whether we link it, do a LinkedIn message, email, or pick up the phone. And once we get in the door, you just have to have a good process.
Well, and one of the things also, we talked a lot about emotions. One of the things I keep hearing about is relationships. And when you're talking about referrals, if you've got a good relationship with an existing client or a colleague or whoever it might be, if there's a relationship there, they know what they do when they hear they've got a colleague who needs something, they already know what you do. That referral will be a lot easier. Again, because that brings in that emotion to that potential client, which is, I can trust the person I've been referred to. You know, that they're already getting that good word. So it's not, like you said, it's not a cold call. It's something that, you know, somebody is given that. Sorry, my mind went about 3 different places on that. The best way to get a client is to upsell an existing client. Right? Least expensive way. The next way is to have a referral from an existing client. Because again, they're already there, or a referral from somebody you know already, and have that relationship, whether it's, you know, one of us. Lisa, you said you got 7 referrals from a Visage person. Those people came to you because they already trusted that Visage person. And we are all their trusted advisors for businesses or people. So it's just that extension of our marketing, right, Beth?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely. And I will add to what Lisa said, go back and see where your business is coming from now. But we actually just did an exercise on that. We did an exercise on that, but we added 2 extra columns to where did our business come from now. And one column was, did we like the client? And one column was, did we like the work? Because it's very easy to go back and look at where your business is coming now and go, oh, okay, this is where all my business coming from. And then you go out and market yourself into a job that you hate, right? We're all professional services people who are doing the work that we're selling. And so, I mean, I started my business so that I didn't have to work with jerks, so that I could do work that I like, do the work that I enjoyed doing and not go back and do it again if I hated it. And so it really helped me even more refine. If the point of this is to go out and find more people just like them, I want to really narrow down my audience profiling to who are the clients that gave us the right volume of work that we needed, that gave us the right kind of work that we needed, that respected and valued the contribution that we made to their organization and had more work for us after. Like for me, like that's my criteria. Like, did we like and now granted the people change, but sometimes it's, do I like the actual client and the people, but sometimes it's like, does this organization that we're working with have a sense of like, oh, we're bringing people in? Because as a creative firm, a lot of times we get people that we always joke want to cut off our hand and move it themselves, or say, want me to say like, would you like fries with that? They're like order taking. I need get me some whatever, get me some brand, oh, okay. Like that they don't understand what they're actually buying from us. And so we really, really enjoy working from people that do understand what they're doing, how long it takes, how much it costs. They want to function with us like a trusted advisor. I tend to not use the word partner. I heard a consultant one time say a partnership is like a ham and egg sandwich, and the pig has a lot more on the line than the chicken. So I try and be respectful of using the word partner, right? Because I'm going to get paid no matter what, So yeah. So, but that's so I know from a feel perspective, I know what I'm looking for in a relationship with a client. And I believe the best combinations are when you know what they want and you know what you're best suited to deliver. And those things, there's a sweet spot in the middle. When you find that sweet spot, you really do understand what your brand is, your why you exist, and what you deliver uniquely for the people that you serve. And like truly, I would say the problem is that the reason we don't understand our brands is that we don't take the time to dig deep enough to get past what's true and into what's truly distinctive. And so we're out there selling, we are whatever, a CPA firm, we are a, sales training firm. And you don't get into like what Lisa's talking about, which is the like, well, why us? Why, like, what's the unique thing that we say, even in that 30-second commercial? And unique like means unique. I heard a school one time say, what's unique about us? We really care about the kids. And I go, God, I hope that's not what's unique about you, because that means you're the only ones that care about the kids, right? Like you have to really think about like, what is unique, but not just what's unique for you. What will make you be uniquely valuable to this particular audience, this person? And if you can imagine them as a person and not as a company or as a thing or as a target or as a line item in your checkbook, really like what will make you a valuable connection? We work with nonprofits, and one of our stories that we've come up with is that we help slash marketers. In the nonprofit world, people are often a development director and somebody asks them to make one change to the website. And now they're the development director / communication director. And the minute I tell that story to anybody that is that person, they're like, yup, that's me. So I tell the story of, you probably thought you were coming in to do this thing. And now you have to be a videographer and a graphic designer and a copywriter. And like when they hear that, like, I know what their life is, I know what they're trying to do, that starts to build the trust that they know that like, I get their day, I get their stress, I get them. And that makes them start to believe that if I can understand what that's like, I might be able to help them.
And the other thing that I feel is important in all of that, I just want to add, is a company's values. Because when you get another company, person, whatever, that client who has your values, or you only restrict your clients, which is what I've recently done, and let go of others, where people who I have as my customers are the ones who have my values. It makes, you mentioned about the work being done, right? Is the two of you, we're talking about the clients that we like and the work that's being done. If the values are not the same, there's going to be conflict. So why not just keep that as one of the requirements whether it's through the branding, whether it's through the business development of those are the only clients I'm going to target who have those values. You know, so Lisa.
And you're talking about something which is the piece de resistance in our business lives, which is the picky stage, where you could be picky about those people you get to work with. But there's something else that I think is really important for us to all think about. When I gave you my little equation, one of the key factors I said was close ratio. Close ratio is defined as number of quotes or proposals to sales. The average close ratio for business to business sales is 30%. Some of us are 25%. But if you're below that, then I can tell you that there's something going on with process. So once we get a suspect or prospect in front of us, what's the process we need to go through? And we've spent a lot of time today talking about what a prospect needs, right? But there's another huge factor here is what we need to know. And oftentimes we're great at finding out what they need, but we're not great at finding out what we need, which to me, who's making this decision? Who else is involved in this decision-making process? What other alternatives are you looking at? What criteria are you using in order to make your decision? What's your timeline for making a decision? What's your timeline for implementing X, Y, or Z? What's your budget? Do you have a budget? What's the ROI? What's the risk of having the wrong solution? And oftentimes we're afraid to ask those types of questions. And so I say, let's ask some of those questions on the front end instead of the back end and make sure, because how many times, and I'm sure we've all dealt with it, that we feel like we're going through a great process, but we were dealing with the wrong person, or we didn't know that they were looking at another alternative, and we would have handled ourselves in the process just a little bit differently.
Those are great points. Well, we're coming up to our close. I greatly, Beth and Lisa, this has been fabulous. And I'm sure everybody else who raised, nodding your head, we got so much out of this. I think we could probably go on for 2 more hours, but we all have the work to do because we're all in business. So we're going to draw to a close, but to do that, I also want everyone to do one takeaway from today. Okay. Oh, before we do that, Zoe, can you grab a picture for us? So, and again, this is marketing, guys. Put it out there, get on LinkedIn, post it, both for your own business and also, there we go with the lemon. There we go with Lisa.
Everyone smile.
All right, go ahead.
Good.
Right. So takeaways, Taylor.
Mine goes back to you, Beth. Purposeful, strategic stories. Very powerful.
Barbara.
What do you want people to know, feel, and do, and that there's different communications for each part of that, and not to try to do too many things in each one of those areas.
All right, Seth.
Know your strengths. You know, I learned that I need to meet with Lisa.
Anytime.
And find Beth and give her a big hug.
No.
And give Lisa a hug too. I'll give everyone hugs, but you know, I'm a hugger.
All right, Stan.
Yep, it's not just about pain, it's about the whole range of emotions that might motivate.
Georgianne.
I love the get care results and also the purpose-driven stories.
Guy. You're on mute.
The 3 areas, the narrowing it down to a manageable process. But we tend to get out there and we start to go in 55 directions because all of a sudden things keep popping up on the radar. But if you narrow it down and focus it and maintain the 3 or 4 manageable areas with targets, I think it would be more successful.
Ed?
I'll let you know next time we meet. I'll try it.
Yes.
The stories were a good reminder. I know the importance of the why, how, what idea, that you focus on the why rather than how you do it. And yet I still probably fall all too often to the how and what we do as opposed to why you should care.
Good reminder. Nella.
So mine is actually action items because I never do this stuff. I'm going to go look at how much per average client for my 2 big wheelhouses I typically have per client, like how much money I'm earning per client in general. So I'll be able to do projections and figure out how I'm doing and where I need to beef up.
It's good. I like that.
Good.
Orlando?
Yeah, I'm reminded to focus on the things that work. So go an inch wide and a mile deep.
Okay. Zoe?
I like one of the things, Beth, you mentioned about when you talk with the client and they say they want a rebrand, and actually asking the right questions to find out what that means. Because it's easy for people to be talking about what they think is the same thing, but it's not the same thing. And it was just a good reminder that you need to be clear on what they're actually asking for, rather than saying, I'll deliver you the moon, when they just wanted like a little replica of the moon about this big.
Oh, I've made that mistake so many times.
Yeah. All right, Bernie?
I think for me was the no fuel do. A lot of times we focus on all our tools and everything we can do for the client, but not, the client doesn't really care. They need to feel that we're solving something for them and not really how we're doing it. And I think that we need to focus on that. And I think that was good.
And mine, of course, is the numbers one, Lisa. Quantify. Yeah, we've got to all do that when we're looking at the emotions and other things. It's just quantify the information to the client. Don't know that in part of the stories. So Taylor, you had a question.
Yeah, one real quick, it's more of a comment. I've heard several folks say today about how they're real good at helping their clients sell, but maybe not selling so much themselves. I think we all need to make a point of, with all these calls, is at the end of the day, ask for the order. I have got a 3x5 card up here right on my wall that as a reminder to me to do just that. And I think you'll be surprised at some of the results. I know there's some reluctance. You may feel a little bit uncomfortable, but try it. You might like it.
Yeah. I'm just going to reiterate also, somebody said, ask for the referrals. Don't forget to do that too. All right. Thank you all. Again, our next session will be in May. I forget the date now. I think it's May 18th, something like that. And then in June, we have 2 other sessions, continuing this with, kind of the life story of life cycle of businesses. And next week is the Mark Biata. All right. Again, thank you, Beth and Lisa. This has been fabulous. As I said, I think we could have talked about this forever. So it shows that there's a big interest in this and so many different ways to do it. So thank you again and see you all. Have a great day. Today is going to be like 75, so it's gorgeous outside. Get out there and do a walk or something, or at least have coffee.
Thank you. This was so much
Take
fun.
care.
Thank you.
All right. See you
Bye-bye.
now.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.